on Better Biz again. You know, telling stories is such an important part of what businesses need to do these days. But certainly, I think the most emotional stories come from funeral homes, and there's a lot of lessons that we can learn by hearing those stories and understanding what's gone on behind them. So we've got today a very special guest, Diane from Elite Funerals. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Anthony. Thank you for having me.
Diane, I wanted to ask you about the whole role that you play in terms of extracting stories, because you're meeting basically strangers more often than not. And you've got this really intense opportunity to try and extract as much information as possible to get the service that really appeases all of the family, let alone the person who's just passed away as well. It's quite an art form, really, to be able to do that.
I think it is a bit of an art form, and we're all good at something, aren't we? And I feel that I am, on the whole, good at this. But it's always, and I tell my employees too, it's always about putting yourself in the shoes of the family. So they've rung you and they really don't want to have to ring you. They've asked you what the price of a funeral is because they don't know what else to say. You've had a nice conversation with them on the phone, and then they're coming into the funeral home. Is the funeral home really somewhere that they want to come into? No, because there's a reason they have to come here. So it's just about making them feel warm and welcome and normal. We have so many laughs during funeral arrangements, and it's hard for me to express, but not being stuffy, not being officious. I will generally let them know how long we're going to be spending today making funeral arrangements for this person, and I'll give them a kind of a timeline of expectations. So I find people work better when they know what's expected of them. And then I'll just sit back and ask them to tell me about Dad, tell me about what's right or wrong, tell me about what's kept them awake at night, wondering about the meeting we're having today, worrying about it. What's on your mind? Someone once said to me that they weren't forced to have a dark coffin. I said, what's kept you awake at night before you've come to see me this morning? I was worried I'd have to have a dark coffin. Let's work with that first. Let's get that out of the road, and then we'll be able to talk about all the rest of the elements that make up a funeral ceremony and funeral service.
I mean, do you find that you're having to play a little bit of detective at times, really, isn't it? Because you're having to somehow extract those gold nuggets of stories to really make sure that, the whole event, and it is an event, is going to reflect, all of those bits and pieces, because there are memories from all different family and friends as well that somehow need to come in to reflect on this person's life and give everyone an opportunity to say farewell. So is that sort of do you put on your detective cap? Is it, do you find that there are some things that you need to do to try and get that out of people?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at DIY CSI, but I like to involve everyone who's important, who's coming to the funeral home. Often there'll be somebody in Melbourne or Brisbane or something that gets involved via a Zoom meeting. And also the choice of funeral celebrant for the funeral service is really important as well. And matching our families to the right funeral celebrant for them can really make or break a funeral. A funeral director is important. A funeral celebrant is also very, very important. And I like to think that, again, we're pretty good at matching families to funeral celebrants. They always have the option to come back to me and say, I don't think this person is going to work for me. And they never have. No one ever has come back to me and said that. They always have the opt-out before the service.
Diane, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciated all your insights. What's the best way for people to get into contact with you?
Well, people can contact us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 9787 4677, or visit our website elitefunerals.com.au.